Hi guys, welcome to the first draping video. Oops, sorry about that. I wanted to go ahead and show you today how to complete the princess torso drapes that we started in class. So I have them all here, all the pins removed, and we need to true them up. And it's pretty straightforward, the process that we're going to go through. I'm pulling out my center front panel right here. And what we want to do is just true the drape up. So starting up here at the neckline, I'm going to lower the neckline at least a 1/4 inch. So I'm measuring down 1/4 of an inch from the neckline I marked on the form. And then I'm going to use my French curve. And what I want to do first is find the part of the French curve that matches up with the neckline I marked on the dress form. And then without changing the point where the shoulder and the neckline meet, shift the French curve down to touch my new lowered neckline marking right in here, like that. So there's the neckline. And then I'm going to use my ruler to put in the shoulder seam. And then all along this princess line, I'm going to be using the hip curve to true it up. So you want to go in there and find the part of the hip curve that best matches the line, trace it where it matches, and then shift it as you need to continue truing up the line. So I'm just trying to hit as much of my markings as I can. All right, so the princess seam has been trued up. Now I'm going to true the hemline. I want it perpendicular to center for at least a 1/4 inch. And then I can go ahead and use the hip curve to true it up. It should be relatively straight. Okay, so that is the center front. Once I've done that, the next step would be to add my seam allowance. So this would be 1/2 inch all the way around. So every edge is going to get a 1/2 inch. And at the neckline, I'm adding it to my new lowered neckline. And I would do that all the way around and then cut it out. I'm going to set this one aside and show you the side front. Here is my side front panel. I know my markings are a little faint. Try to darken some of them here. Actually, this is my side back. Oops, let me go ahead and get my side front. Here it is. Okay, here's the side front. So for this one, I'm going to go ahead and start off at the shoulder, like that. And then I'm going to be using the hip curve again to true up the princess seam. And I'm flipping it right in here because the princess seam dips or kind of curves in the other direction a little bit. And here as well. And then when I get into the bust area, I'm going to use the French curve. Right in here. And then under the bust, the curve changes direction a little bit. And then we we get into the waist area, and I want a nice gentle curve from the waist out to the hip. We don't want to have any sharp corners at the hip. My form happened to have a lot of shape here. Yours, if you used one of the PGM forms, is probably not going to be quite as exaggerated. Now I'm going to switch to the hip curve for the lower portion of the hip. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now I'll do the hemline, and the hemline on the side panels is definitely going to curve down a bit. And then I'm doing the hip area at the side seam, trying to hit as many of my little markings as I can, the markings I made on the form. All right, so I've done the shoulder, the princess seam, the hemline, and then the hip area from the waist to the hem. I need to do my armhole and my side seam, but before I can do the armhole, I need to put in my side seam. Just like when we were doing our basic bodice, it's the same process here. So a straight line is going to connect from the armhole marking that we made at the bottom of the plate, straight line from there to the waist. But remember, we always lower the armhole at least a ½ inch. So we'll go ahead and just do a ½ inch on this style as if this were going to be sleeveless. We're just going to lower the armhole a ½ inch. We're not going to extend it outward since it would be sleeveless. And now I'm going to use the French curve, and I'm holding the French curve with the straighter part pointing up to the shoulder and the curvier part coming down here to the bottom of the armhole and then touching the guide mark. So right in here. Looks pretty good. And that is the armhole. Next part of the process is just going to be adding seam allowance all the way around except for the side seam and the armhole. We're going to do 1 inch. So 1 inch in here, and then 1 inch at the armhole. Okay. Everywhere else can be a ½ inch. So I will go ahead and finish these, and then I'll show you the finished product. Just a little note, just make sure on the back armhole, when you're putting in your back armhole and side seam, make sure you do the same thing here that you're doing on your front side seam and armhole. They need to match. Otherwise, the rest of this is just like with the side front. We're going to go ahead and just true up the markings that you have. All right. Hey guys, I wanted to go ahead and show you the finished drape. So I trued everything up and added ½ inch seam allowance, darkened the notches that we had 2 inches above and below the bust, and made sure every waist point had a notch as well. You can see there's a 1 inch seam allowance at the armholes and the side seams, and every other edge is a ½ inch. We would then just transfer these to paper. Now, without a cork top table, I know it can be a little tricky to find a good surface, but cardboard works really well. If you place cardboard under your paper and draping, you can transfer it without damaging the table. And then seam allowances would just be ½ inch. Our front panel would be cut on the fold, and the back panel would be cut too. The side back and the side front panel would also be cut too.